Hub Cymru are asking the Welsh Government to persuade pharmaceutical companies to pass on the details of how you make COVID vaccines for free. Well, Oxfam, along with other charities, think this could help people living in poorer countries get their jabs more quickly. Claire OShea is the chair of the Wales Overseas Agencies Group and speaks on behalf of the charities calling for more. Good morning, Claire.
Morning, Claire.
So just explaining in terms of what you're asking the companies to do, you want them to share the details of how they make the vaccines so that labs around the world can copy them. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. We know that vaccines are our best hope of getting the pandemic under control, and the companies and the factories who could be making vaccines are standing on the sidelines because big pharmaceutical companies in the richer countries are not sharing their so-called intellectual property rights. So they're putting patents and profits before lives at the moment.
But a lot of these big drug companies, there's a lot of money invested into making these vaccines and they are businesses. I mean, are they on board with this plan? Have you spoken to them? Are they willing to do this?
They're not willing to do it at the moment, and that is a disappointing position to be in. We want to put pressure on them to release the patents and the recipes and the tech in order to be able to get this done. We have to remember that the innovation of developing the vaccine was absolutely amazing, but there was lots and lots and lots of public money thrown behind that development process. So they also need to kind of honour the fact that 100 billion of public money was spent, and whilst other countries are at risk, we're also at risk. So creating kind of an artificial supply to developing countries isn't beneficial to anybody.
And if they continue to say no, what can you do? I mean, how much of an influence do you think Welsh Government can have on these big companies? What kind of pressure needs to be applied?
Here in Wales, we don't have control of this process, but we do have a government who can represent Welsh people, and we're asking them to put pressure on the UK government to release the patents and the rights for these vaccines. Our government, more than anyone, will know that when these other countries are still allowing the vaccine to run rampant through them, that Wales will always be at risk of mutations. So we're asking Welsh Government to put a lot of pressure on pharmaceuticals and the UK government to address this injustice.
And what difference would it make, Claire, if these changes were made?
It would make a massive difference. So, for example, we've been enjoying the Euros over the last month or so. But whilst we've been enjoying the Euros, for example, in Uganda, a country that Wales has a long, long history with, their national football stadium is being used as a field hospital. Their cases have gone up by 1,000% in the last month, and the death toll is constantly rising. But only 4,000 people out of a population of 45 million have had a vaccination. So we know that donations of vaccines from richer countries isn't enough to address the enormous strain for these populations.
So we have heard a fair bit about the COVAX scheme, which gets richer countries to donate vaccines to poorer countries. Is that working?
COVAX, we welcome any donations from any government into the COVAX scheme. It's really important, but we shouldn't be, but it's a vital process and it needs much more support. It alone is never going to meet the scale of need. So even as it meets its goal, that means only 20% of people in developing countries will get a dose by the end of this year. Our research suggests it might be more like 10%. So we need much, much more. And really, the only thing that is going to address the needs and meet the needs of the populations is for the rights and the tech to make the vaccine being available to everybody.
So COVAX scheme, it isn't enough at the moment.
It's nowhere near enough. We need much, much more and much more urgent action. COVAX is a slow process, and whilst it kind of ticks along slowly, we're always at risk of the virus mutating.